Hey, happy Monday. I am Shamaree. I'm a marriage and family therapist turned intimacy coach and relationship expert, and I empower women to be fully uninhibited and fulfilled in their intimate and sexual relationships. And we're back Monday Live. We're talking about seeking relationships, and these are some questions, where it's a compilation of questions that I typically get, and I'm noticing a little bit of a theme, and so I wanted to talk a little bit more about like really seeking out relationships, finding a partner, how to attract the right people. Hello, happy Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. Come in. Hello. And so we're going to talk about seeking relationships. Like I said, how to attract the partner that you want, how to be open for that, how to be approachable, and how to get that established just based on themes that I notice when people come to me. And typically I work with women, so a lot of these questions are coming from women, but this applies to everybody. And so how to find a partner. This is kind of very general, but I do get this a lot, and so I want to go ahead and address it. And so the way that I break it down, it's going to be into three steps basically. So first thing first, what I always say, people are like, what should I know before I get married? How do I know? How can I find? And the first thing that I always say is to know you first and foremost, right? So you want to know yourself, know as much as you can about how you are, the way that you are, what you value, what's important to you, how you react to certain things. And then once you know at least a general thing, because we're always getting to know ourselves, so over time, this will change. I'm not exactly the same that I was when I was 20 years old, and I don't hope to be the same that I will be when I'm 40 years old. So that is very important. Getting to know yourself through and through. What do you like? What are you interested in? What makes you happy? What upsets you? How do you react when you're angry? How do you react when you're sad? Know all the things. And as much as you can, identify where it comes from. If there are particular triggers or things that bring something out of you, just being very sure about what that is, and then become a better you. And so if you want to attract better partners, ideally they are looking for the same, right? They're not going to want someone who doesn't have what they can offer, right? And so you want to make sure that you become a better you. And so if you notice themes or patterns, and I love talking about themes and patterns, and pointing things out when I'm working with clients, because sometimes we don't know what those things are, right? And so that's why it's important that if you don't know and you don't have people that are close to you, like friends or family, that are able to identify those things for you, because maybe they do the same thing and they think that that's normal, and it might be normal, but if it's not working for you, then we might want to change it, right? And so if you don't have that built into your support system currently, seeking out professional help will get you there. And so it doesn't have to be me. I am accepting one-on-one clients. So if you are interested, then you can definitely schedule a breakthrough call with me. It's free, 30 minutes, and we can see if we're a good fit to work together. The link is in my bio, so you can go ahead and do that. But it can be anybody. Anybody that you feel can help you to get to whatever your goal is. If your goal is to find a partner, to get married, whatever that may look like for you, getting help only get you there a little bit faster, right? And so if you identify these themes, these patterns, things that you probably need to work on, then you want to make sure that you're working on them, right? So whether that's getting the professional help, whether that's doing a lot of self-help, buying books, resources, worksheets, journals, they have a lot of self-help resources out there that can actually be really helpful if you take them seriously and if you're consistent with it. So doing the things so that you can identify these patterns, so that you can make changes, so that you are that better person. So that's going to be number one before any strategy or anything that you hear as far as how you should present. You want to know yourself and you want to be a better you, whatever that looks like, right? And then the second thing is going to be knowing what you want. And this kind of goes along with knowing yourself. If you know yourself, this next part is going to be a little bit easier. If you don't really know yourself, you're going to have a lot of very general criteria. We want to be very specific in our criteria. So what are you looking for in a partner? What do you want your life to look like? And what does that person need to look like in order to fit into that vision that you have for yourself, right? And so, yes, you can do this by making a list. I am not against lists. However, whenever I have clients do a list, you list out all the things that you want, but I tell everybody you can have no more than 2 or 3 physical characteristics. Everything else needs to be a characteristic as far as a personality trait or something that they can do, right? So I don't care if they're 6 feet or 6'5" or whatever, because that ultimately is not necessarily going to impact the quality of the relationship. Just generally speaking, it doesn't really have that great of an impact. So 2 or 3 physical characteristics. Everything else on this list must be a personality trait, something that they are as a person, an adjective that you would use that is not physical at all. So like ultimately, yes, I know, I get it. We all want someone who is attractive. So of course, we want them to be attractive. That's fine. But 2 or 3 physical characteristics, if you want them to be tall, they can go ahead. That's one. So go ahead and list the things out, right? And when you have this list, like I said, you want to think about what your vision, what your idea for your future is. You want to make sure that this list aligns with that vision. And there was a podcast that I did maybe a month or maybe even a couple of months ago. But in that, I talked about how a lot of people have this vision or this idea of what they want their relationship to be, and people love to say they want to build an empire, right? But then when you ask them what they're looking for, they list a lot of things that have very little to do with being able to build this empire, right? So they'll list out like the typical, like, tall, attractive, someone who's romantic, like they want the rose petals across the room with the balloons and like the surprise, right? And that is wonderful. That's lovely. If you get that and if you find that, however, that is not necessary. That romance, putting petals on the floor, that's not necessarily necessary for you to have this empire, right? So it doesn't exactly align with what you say your vision for this relationship is. So if you have things on there that doesn't align, you might want to reconsider. So either you're wanting something that's maybe not necessary, or maybe your vision for the relationship wasn't exactly what you were initially saying that it was, right? So you might realize that, oh, romance is more important to me than building this empire, right? And so you kind of reevaluate and you adjust your list along the way. But I did see kind of a recent post, it's been on social media, just about becoming your own list, and that is a little bit of something that I kind of talk about with clients as well, and not necessarily like you have to have exactly everything, because on my list, when I made it long time ago, but when I made it, obviously, like I said, there's a couple of physical things that are important or that I prefer. So not even that they're necessary, but I prefer it. And so one of those things would be tall. I like tall men. I've always liked people who are athletic. So typically basketball players are tall, right? And so that's something that's been very constant in my attraction to other partners throughout my lifetime, right? And so I'm not tall. I don't know if you guys could tell from pictures or just from seeing me. I am not a tall person. And so I wouldn't be able to say that I had everything that this partner had on this list, right? Because some of those physical things, I ain't got it. So it is okay if there are a couple of things that you don't have, because when you're seeking out a partner, typically we're looking for someone who can complement us. So we have the same values, maybe we have the same goals for our life and the way that we want to live our life, but maybe I'm more outgoing and they're not as outgoing. I think that that is fine because we can kind of balance one another out, right? And so it's not going to be that you need to have exactly everything on that list, but it needs to be comparable. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're looking for a really great stand-up person, high quality or whatever, they're not going to want someone who cannot meet them there. And so that is the idea behind becoming your own list. So I do talk a little bit about that, making sure that you're able to match at least 90% of it, and then the other 10% making sure that you're complimentary. So if you want them to be an honest person, are you living in an honest way? Are you honest? And I mean this across the board. I used to work with a lot of men, and I worked with a lot of men who were in the criminal justice system, who were in the streets, and so they would tell me that they're real, they keep it 100 all the time, but then they would be cheating on their girlfriends, or talking badly about people behind their back. And to me, that there's an incongruence. Something ain't lining up. If you're 100, you keep it 100, you're real, then you need to live your life that way, right? And so that would impact or be reflected in everything that you do. And so if you put this on a list, I mean, really, really being that. And then that is how you can find that more genuinely. You're able to recognize it because you truly live it yourself. And so, yes, you can create a list. Not against lists, just making sure that we're doing primarily personality traits and characteristics, and then making sure that we can meet that person there, because you can be super attracted to them and into them, think they're a great person, but are they looking at you and thinking the same thing? Because if they're not, they're probably not going to pursue you, right? So that would be the second thing. First thing, know yourself. Know full through as much as you can why you do the things that you do, what's important to you, what you want. And then number two is really being clear on what that other person needs to be, what that looks like, so you can recognize it when you see it. Some people don't even recognize it when they see it, even though they say that they want it, right? So really being very, very clear on that. And then the third thing is you have to put yourself in position, right? So if you want to seek this, you want this to happen for yourself. I know, like they said, your husband is not in your living room. If he was, then you wouldn't be looking for it, right? Because you would already have it. So you have to put yourself in position to get this. So once you're clear on what it is, once you're sure, then putting yourself out there. So you have to go to places, ideally places that line up with this vision for yourself, ideally places that line up with how you like to live your life. If you don't have hobbies, maybe finding some, because that's important for getting to know yourself. It's important for self-care, for your mental health. But then there's also an avenue that you could potentially find a partner, right? So if you find out that you have a new activity that you like to do, making sure that you're getting out there and that you're doing this, meeting other people who like to do that, and it can grow from there potentially, right? So putting yourself in those positions, going to places that your ideal partner would likely be. And don't just be going, like, if you hate golf, do not go to the golf course trying to find someone, and now you're stuck not having fun, because people don't typically approach people who don't look like they're having fun. So making sure that you're putting yourself in situations where you're going to be comfortable, but that you can also seek out like-minded people. And then the apps. If you're looking for somebody, you can put yourself on the apps. It just gives you a greater range of people that you can find. And the people on the apps are the same people that you run into at the grocery store, just like you at that grocery store and you're on that app. They're at that grocery store and they could potentially be on that app too. So putting yourself out there truly, genuinely, and then we can repeat. So if you're noticing, this is another question that I get a lot, is why do I keep attracting the same thing? So if you're noticing that when you're putting yourself out there, and the things that you're doing, the things that you're seeing and you're dating, or even just people approaching you, if you're noticing that there's a pattern there, then that's something that you want to evaluate. A lot of times women will come to me and they're like, I have so much going for myself. I don't know why I keep attracting the same thing all of the time. They'll say like, hey, I'm pretty, I'm smart, I got my own car, I got my own place, I got a job, I'm doing all of these things, but I keep attracting men, or other people who cannot meet me there, or who are not treating me well, who don't value me as a person. And typically what I say is, if you really are all of that, And if I just started working with you, or I'm not even working with you, you hit me up in my DMs, or you sending messages asking me these things, I don't know you, right? So I can't confirm that you're any of those things, but I'll take your word for it. If you are all of these things that you say, all these wonderful things, you have all of these things to offer, you are going to attract all types of people. All types. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Because of course you're going to attract people who maybe have a little bit less than you, but you might attract people who are on your same level, or they have the same frequency, they have the same things to offer. You will attract all types if you're really all of those wonderful things, but it is up to you to then be able to vet these people, to be able to determine whether or not there's someone worth putting your time and energy into. And if you're constantly making the same types of choices and you're noticing these patterns, it ain't always them. Sometimes it is you. You are the one that is making this choice. So then you have to kind of reevaluate, what about me is attracting the same type of person? What about me that I allow this to happen? Because the relationship can only continue to grow and evolve as you allow it to. So what about me is allowing this to happen? And then we have to go right back through all three steps. Number one, go back to getting to know yourself, figuring yourself out and why you do the things that you do, right? Reevaluate what you're looking for. Number two, what do I want? What do I need? What does that look like? Being very, very clear on what that is. And then going back to number three, then putting yourself back out there and going from there. So if you're noticing a pattern, sometimes it ain't them, it's you. Another question that I get is not really getting approached. So either they're getting the same thing every time, or they're not getting approached at all. And what I say to that is sometimes, and this is usually from people who say, I've been single for so long, I don't know why I'm not getting any interest or any genuine interest, right? And so part of it is, if we've been in a pattern of being alone for so long, we get very used to living our life the way that it is, or being the way that we are, and we can build up walls. Because typically most people, if they're single for an extended amount of time, it is because maybe they've gotten a little bit more picky, or then maybe they've gotten a little bit more hardened based on their past experiences. So if we've had bad past experiences, we naturally build up walls because now we want to protect ourselves. We don't want this to continue to happen. Like, if I was hurt, I ain't trying to be hurt no more. So I'm going to do my very best to avoid it. And in that avoidance, yes, we're absolutely keeping out the trash people, all the people who are going to use us or treat us badly, the toxic situations. We're avoiding all of that for sure. But we're also avoiding everything else. So the happy life, happy marriage, or long-term relationship that we're seeking, we're also keeping that out. So what I say is, you have to be open-minded. So if you're saying you want to be married, you want a relationship, you want to be happy, you want to spend your life with someone, then also having the faith or the hope that that is possible for you. So we have to start there. If you don't think that is possible, you're not going to try. Like, if something is not possible, most people are not going to do it, right? Because they know it's not going to happen. But if you think that it's possible for you, because you're a great person, you have a lot to offer, and you deserve and you can have a great partner, if we have that belief, then that means it's a possibility. And that means that we have to allow ourselves to take the chance on the possibility. And that doesn't mean that you have to let any and everybody in. Going back to what I was saying before, we have to be able to really determine if the person is worth putting that energy and the time into. But you got to at least try. So that is very important. Sometimes we are keeping people out that we're looking for based on past experiences. And with that, another thing that I really talk a lot about is, yes, it's possible. I am not currently in the current dating sphere, so I can't tell you with certainty from first person experience. Everything that I know about it is from secondhand experiences. But even if it's completely trash out there, you are also out there. So I always say, if we just think about logic, probability, numbers, you cannot be the only good single person left in the world. Like, it's just not realistic. It's not possible. So if you are out there and you are seeking this healthy relationship or this wonderful experience, there has to be at least one other person, right? And so it's possible. We have to give ourselves the chance on possibility. And even if you've had bad experiences, even if you continue to have bad past experiences, every time that you have those experiences, you learn something new, ideally, hopefully. And now you are working with more experience. You have more knowledge. So you may be able to stop the situation before it gets to a point where you were super hurt and heartbroken like it did before. So there are things that you have in place. You're smarter now. You're older now. You're wiser now. So your navigation of the experience should be better. So just give yourself the opportunity, and then we can tweak and change along the way. It's possible. We can also prevent something from progressing that doesn't need to. We should be a lot clearer on our boundaries. That goes back to knowing self as well. And so if you need assistance, like I said, sometimes identifying these things or seeing where things are going wrong is hard to do from living in the middle of it. And so if you have friends or family that are good like that, then I love that for you. And let them point things out to you. But getting a professional will definitely get you there a lot faster. And it's also an objective opinion. I used to talk to my friends about situations, but I was always super cognizant that people are speaking from their own experiences. And even just thinking about the things that people would say to me, they were speaking from their experience and not an objective stance. So sometimes that kind of paints how you see a situation. So that is the benefit to seeking a professional versus just your friends. They can be helpful too, but getting the objective feedback and guidance can make all the difference. And so, like I said, if you want to work with me, then we can definitely do that together. Go ahead and click the link in my bio, get your free breakthrough call. My schedule is going to be changing. I mentioned this before. I'm going to be taking on more therapy clients. So my space for coaching clients is going to be getting smaller. So if you are wanting to, or you've been wanting to, then you need to do that. I may have something special for Black Friday coming up. However, that is only for people on the newsletter. If you ain't on the newsletter, what you doing? Go do that. And the link also in the bio. Check that out. Sign up so that you can get the announcement and see what specials I have going on for Black Friday. Now is the perfect time if you have goals, anything, even if it's not relationships. Now is the perfect time to start so that you can already be in that when the new year starts. Start the new year out how you want to end it. So you can get ahead on those goals right now. And I am happy to help, but I hope you enjoyed the rest of your Monday. I have some more work stuff to be doing, so I'm going to get out of here, but I will see you guys later.